3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hello and welcome everyone to Truth, Beer, and Podsequences.
Yay!
Yay indeed, Julia. Yay indeed. This is a podcast where my co-host and I listen to all the Cincinnati-based craft beer media and podcasts from the previous week. We get together at a podcast host, and today we are back at Higher Gravity Summit Park. Thank you, Higher Gravity, for being a gracious podcast host. Now, what we do is give our version of the truth of how those podcasts and media went, and hopefully there aren't too many consequences from the hosts of the other podcasts and media. So far, this far into 2024,
we're doing
all right.
All right, yeah.
Doing all right.
Only a couple little shaky moments here and there.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
nothing major.
Nothing major. My name is Marco. I'm a taproom manager here locally, and I did brew beer for several years. That was fun. I enjoyed it. I made some good stuff too. But anyways, I know I said, and you heard the name of the person, but I'm going to introduce him as the best co-host in Podcastlandia.
I'm Julia. I drink all the craft beer in the greater Cincinnati area and beyond. And when you order a pizza, just be sure to check the crust.
Check the crust. After you
check it.
Check it.
Dig into it. Don't trust every bite you take.
Yeah.
For Cincy Beer Week, which is starting really
as you listen to this, as it comes out.
Absolutely, is happening. It is October 4th through the 13th. Yes, it is a week that is more than 7 days, as things should be. Please visit cincybeerweek.com. There are so many events happening for Cincy Beer Week that there is no way we could tell you about all of them, but I will highlight 3 of the events before we get started. I'm hosting, or I guess as you're listening to that, there's still time. Monday, October the 7th, Woodburn Brewing from 7 to 9. I'm hosting the Women in Beer panel with an absolutely spectacular group of women from the Cincinnati and slightly beyond beer scene. Going to be talking to them about their experiences, about how they have seen women's role in beer adapt and evolve and change and just become more prevalent, as it should be, within just the beer industry as a whole. It should be an absolutely fantastic conversation with 5 absolutely amazing women. I am so excited. I am so thrilled and slightly terrified of trying to make sure that it is a discussion that is worth everybody's time. So show up. There's going to be a special beer tapping at Woodburn that night as well. Another event that I want to highlight is October the 10th at Sonder Mason. Mm-hmm. Is the Oktoberfest Quest finale.
The finale.
Yes, the Gnarly Gnome will finally decide, with the help of 2 guest judges, what Cincinnati packaged Oktoberfest beer is the best. They will win the Golden Gnome, and they will have the honor of being asked to host next year's Oktoberfest Quest Showdown finally.
Yeah.
Which is going to be amazing.
Yep.
And the last event that I want to shout out is on Saturday, October the 12th at Darkness Brewing. Big Sis is back. It is a beer in honor of Mike Cisneros, who really started Cincy Brewcast and really helped the Gnarly Gnome to get his love of the Cincinnati craft beer scene just projected into the absolutely amazing, I don't want to say conglomerate, that's completely wrong, but just the amazing thing that it is today. So if you are able to, show up to Darkness Brewing on Saturday the 12th. I think it said like 4 or 5 or 6. I don't know. Check cincybeerweek.com for all the time. Just check the website. Did you check the website? If not,
the website.
Check the website. And also, if you want an email of all of these Cincy Beer events happening, go to truthbeerpod.com and sign up for the Cincy Beer Events newsletter.
Yes.
And you'll get a big old list sent to your inbox every week of events going out through the next month-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, not to be too somber, certainly all the with what happened weather-wise over this past weekend, there's a lot of unfortunate Unfortunately, there was a lot of damage in different parts of the country, going all the way down to Florida, all the way up to. I mean, even here in our area, there were some people without electricity for some 24 hours.
Right, right.
So, but an amazing brunt of what was absorbed happened in Asheville and the surrounding areas in North Carolina.
Right.
And so,
that beer scene may be.
Changed forever.
Right, absolutely.
Certainly hope everyone comes out of that strong and resilient. Not that if they don't, they're not resilient people. It's just that sometimes things are out of your control and you just have to move forward in a different direction. So hope just good thoughts to all of them out there.
And also, I want to give a cheers and a very fond farewell to BC's, well, I guess it's The Lodge. So it was BC's BottleLodge Liberty, the tap room. Just with opening the new brewery, the customer base just was not what they thought it would kind of come back to once people got used to the brewery. And as we're recording, today is their last day open to the public.
Yep.
So
it was a very short... a
very quick decision. I guess it was like
the runway between announcement and closing was
hours. And if we would have had kind of more notice, we would have loved to have recorded up there today. But the timing did not work out. But be sure to support them at BC's Brewing Company.
Yep.
Because they are doing absolutely phenomenal things up there.
They are, and we've recorded from there, and I'm sure at some point in the future we'll go back, and record from there. Of course, I've been several times, but anyways, So, all that being said, the thoughts and opinions on this podcast are ours and ours alone. They do not reflect any entity which we may be affiliated with, such as full-time jobs, part-time jobs, or higher gravity. If you want to get at us about something, we'll tell you how at the end of the pod, or you can read the show notes. I encourage you to do so. And you can find out how to get at us.
I don't think anyone read the show notes, or if they did, they didn't tag us with what I had asked them to. So. Yeah.
So
it's fine.
Yeah. There you go. So,
it's
there's stuff out there, folks.
Yes.
So we invite you to engage with us.
Yes.
We are the number one craft beer podcast that talks about Cincinnati craft beer podcasts, and thank all of you for making us that. What did you drinking, Julia?
Is it Dorchester Brewing that we figured out from the teeny tiny lettering on this can? We both have beers from their Rupee series.
Yes.
I am drinking their premium mango ale.
I am drinking the premium lager, which is a basmati rice lager.
Yes, both of these were kind of designed and developed to be consumed while you're eating an amazing Indian meal. Yeah. And mine tastes like a super light, yet still beyond flavorful mango lassi beverage. The basmati rice lager is light and crisp, but has that basmati kind of creaminess that you kind of expect from when you're eating a dish with that.
And I'll never be drinking it with Indian food.
This is true. That could be problematic.
I don't do Indian food.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. More for me then is all I'll say to that.
Well, you got to marinate everything in yogurt, and then it all looks like oh, do you have the orange goop or slop, or do you have the green slop?
Yeah.
Do you have the red slop?
You're not wrong, but my God, it's delicious.
Okay,
if
good.
You're able to, yeah. So those are the beverages we're consuming, and
don't at me. Or
you know what?
Go ahead at me.
Well, and also, we sent a picture to the Gnome, who is, as you can tell, not present currently.
He's actually here.
He's around the corner. We just
tied
kind
his
of
mouth with duct tape.
It's about damn time.
Yeah.
So maybe he will kind of break free from the ties and tethers, and maybe he'll show up later, or maybe we'll have done a good enough job to where we can actually, we're already, as recording time, editing aside, we're already almost 12 minutes into this.
Wow.
Maybe we will
can
actually, no shit, it's terrible. It's great. But But yeah, we might actually be able to run through this in a decent amount of time tonight.
I don't think so.
Nah, probably not.
Let's try,
probably
though.
not. All right. These are the shows that we watched, listened to, that type of thing. Let's just make sure we're on the same page. We typically are.
We are. We
But,
typically
you
are,
know.
and we want all of you at home to be following along with us. Did you or did you not watch or listen to these?
Yes, let us know. Friday's episode from September 27th, Barstool Perspectives.
Barstool Perspective, yes.
Yep. Craft Parenting Podcast, episode 202, where they talked about like 15 different topics.
Yes.
Yes. We have an episode of the Jungle Gyms International Podcast, where they talked with
Yes.
Third Eye Brewing.
Third Eye,
Awesome.
yeah.
We have an episode of the Miami Valley Craft Beer Podcast. Blake, the Brewery Explorer, hung out with the Gnarly Gnome.
Wow.
Which is also kind of why we duct taped him, because we're like, hey,
Right.
wait a second, what is this treachery? Nah, it's great. It's fantastic. And then we have Cincy Brewcast
Yes.
talking
At
the Sonder Oktoberfest episode.
The annual Sonder Oktoberfest episode.
Cannot wait. And then the weekly, let's do it, the weekly point.
The weekly points. Cheers.
Yes, cheers from Monday.
Let's see. First show. Well, let's go Craft Parenting Pod.
All right.
Let's
sounds
talk
good.
about them when
Sounds
they're not
good.
here.
This-
We would do that anyway. We do that anyway.
Because we cover the shows. Absolutely. This is episode 202. I am still so stoked for them to have over 200 episodes. They do kind of cheat a little bit with having an episode a day for Beer Vent, which, if you haven't pre-ordered your Beer Vent calendar from Higher Gravity, do it. They're going to be ready and sold out before you know it. So go to Higher Gravity Craft House, HAUS.com, and pre-order your Beer Vent box. They'll be ready shortly before December, and it's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely spectacular.
Yep.
But anyway, episode 202, Psych Night, Homecoming, Oktoberfest season, and back to school. A lot going on. A lot going on in the Ludwig household. I tried to blend those two words together, and that wouldn't have worked too well. This was an hour and 30-minute episode.
Yeah, it was.
But the beer talk was mostly in the first hour. So that's, again, what we're going to focus on, because, I mean, we talk about the beer stuff and not really the other stuff.
Right.
They started off with talking about Joe being able to go to Psych Night at Mad Tree.
Psych.
Just like what we talked about with, illness and stuff like that. Caroline wasn't able to come. She was relegated to child care duty.
Yeah.
It was awesome seeing Joe there. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
The reels and the video that he put out for Psych Night, I don't know if you saw that on the
No.
Facebooks and all that. Oh, it was so well done. And he was complaining a bit about how he had to try to edit all of that on his phone instead of his computer, which was a pain in the ass. It looked great. I thought that he did a phenomenal job with the music, with how he cut the different short videos of scenes from the tour and the overview of the Mad Tree, the brew house and all that. It was great. So he may be complaining about it, but I think he did a spectacular job.
Way to go, Joe.
Yeah, he and Caroline both gave some local beer scene history. They talked about, how Mad Tree is kind of one of the top 3 kind of OG, this is going to sound weird, OG biggest breweries in Cincinnati. They didn't start as the biggest, but they are one that definitely fell into as Cincinnati craft beer started to become a thing, an actual scene, and not just a random 1 or 2 breweries here in the city. You had, Mount Carmel, you had Rheingeist, you had, Mad Tree, Listerman is in there. I believe they said top 3. I could be making that up, but hey, since I'm speaking for Joe tonight, Mad Tree's one of the
Well, that's what he said.
3 OGs. Perfect.
That's what he said.
And I'm not lying.
Right or wrong.
50% chance that I'm right. 50% chance that I'm wrong. 50-50.
No, I think we're right.
Watch or listen to the
He might
episode
be
and
wrong.
find out. Yes.
Who knows?
They actually did. I didn't mention this at the beginning. They actually were able to go live for this episode on YouTube.
Yes.
But you can listen to this on a podcatcher, or you can watch all their chaos unfold on camera. I think at one point Caroline was crawling on the floor.
Yes,
all
that
kinds
did happen.
of things. All kinds of things if you watch this episode on YouTube. Psychopathy was Joe's first ever IPA.
Ever.
And now he is being brought into Mad Tree as they celebrate the rebranding of Psychopathy, which I love the new look. I know
It is
that
a good
some
look.
people, I have nostalgia for the original label. I loved the original kind of Rorschach design. But man, this new branding is just crisp and clean and bright. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it really does fit who Mad Tree is as a company today.
I think yes. I think they work very harmoniously.
Yes, yes. They moved on to talking about Oktoberfest. Joe and Lily went to, they were saying Germania. I think it's Germania. I guess it kind of depends on what dialect you want to use for that. Gnome, can you tell us the proper pronunciation? Oh, no, you can't.
No.
Still got the tape over your mouth, which
Still.
with the beard hairs, that's really going to hurt when you take that off.
I was nice though. I made sure to soak a cloth in chlorophyll and then tape.
Right. So then, right. So he just wasn't aware. Yeah.
So that
yeah.
he, when we go to take the tape off, doesn't hurt his mouth.
Good. That was very kind of you.
Yeah.
Very, very kind of you.
I am a kind person.
Let's see. They opened up. They went to Germania. I don't know. However you want to say it. It is your truth. It is your pronunciation, and you do you to open up the Oktoberfest season. Joe's description of the Germania. Good Lord,
Yep.
this is. I'm trying to
That one.
I'm trying to pronounce it all three ways at once, and that is not working in any way, shape, or form. The Germania Oktoberfest. His description was exact. This is a direct quote. I re-listened to this part 3 times to make sure I got it right. We had a beer or whatever. That,
I actually played that back.
did you do that
Yeah.
too? You're like, okay, wait a second. That's it? That's all he's going to say? Yeah, we had a beer or whatever. I'm like,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of moved on. I went, Joe,
Yeah.
what is this? Then they talked about Oktoberfest Cincinnati at the new location down on the banks. Joe and Caroline, did some dancing.
Or as they called it, the Zins.
The Zins, yes. We went down to the Zins, which was a little bit cringe. See how I kind of made that rhyme? Just a bit, just a smidgen. I'm prepping for beer vent parody season.
Oh, good job.
I've got to get these rhymes and stuff kind of lubricate the muscle memory for my brain and all
Lubricate the
that.
muscle memory.
Didn't sound as good as I thought it would. So, yeah, we'll see if
That's
only
fine.
Patreon gets that or
You
if
can
everyone
keep your
gets it.
lubrication to yourself.
I most certainly will. They both did some dancing down there.
Yeah.
They talked about how
they were lubricated too.
Oh, good God. What have I done? They talked about kind of the same thing that Gnome was saying. The new location is so much better than the past location. Joe rehashed his worst moment at an Oktoberfest ever as he was talking about Oktoberfest Cincinnati, how he was handed an IPA and not an Oktoberfest beer, and how it just ruined the entire... I mean, obviously it still affects him a lot. His whole day was ruined back then, like years ago, but you can still feel the pain in his voice when he brings the story up again. So I don't know
Yeah.
if he's over it. He might want to talk to someone about this.
Yeah.
Kind of
He's
release
still very
the-
upset about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his sister's very upset still.
Oh, yeah, this is true. This is true. There's nothing worse than getting a water instead of a water.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. Kind of directly on that note, is 2.5% beer the same as water?
It's probably got a little more flavor.
Probably a little more. And it still is something that even you're like, yeah, I can just toss these back. This is the same as water. There is still some alcohol content. So if you're out in the sun, it's hot, you still need to be paying a bit of attention because it'll probably go down a lot faster than you're expecting. You can consume a lot more than you're anticipating. It's just like getting a snack that's like, 50% less fat. Well, that means I can eat 50% more in one sitting.
Yeah, it does.
There could still be some potential issues with some of that.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
They also danced at and were in attendance at Sonder's Oktoberfest and Friends.
That was
which
weird since they weren't invited.
They just show up and
They
dance.
just showed up and danced.
If you saw a couple dressed in full Oktoberfest regalia just show up and start dancing at your Oktoberfest, are you going to stop them?
No.
No, absolutely not.
No.
Especially when one of them is the Michael Jackson of German dancing.
The legacy did precede him.
Very true. Very true. They walked
were
in. They walked in
crowd
their
of
dirndls and
tens.
lederhosen, and just everyone at Sonder just went, give them the stage. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Tens of family members were there.
This is true.
To cheer
Yeah.
him on.
Yeah, absolutely. The Donna Schwaben Oktoberfest is the best in the West? ? Or is it even in the West? ?
Yeah, this was hilarious.
That was that was a
Hilarious.
wonderful
Is
conversation.
cold rain
It's
on the
like-
west side?
Right. I mean,
How about no?
it all depends on what you consider the west side. West of 75 and within the 275 loop or the outskirts of the 275. They had a whole big old discussion
How long does it
about
take you to get there, Julia?
To the Donna Schwaben with no traffic, with like everything just kind of flowing the way it should, in 25 minutes maybe?
Not on the west side.
Not on the west side then?
No.
Okay. They did give their dance schedule for the Donna Schwab and Oktoberfest, so if you're around,
that's good.
check it out.
Set your
Check it out.
set your Google alerts.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Why wouldn't you?
Set your Google alerts.
Yeah. Set your calendar alerts.
It's call to action.
September 31st, when Joe and Caroline will be dancing at all the Oktoberfests all at once. Because it exists in that parallel universe where these things are possible. I say we come back to the Jungle Gyms International podcast.
Sounds good to me.
All right, we will be
Right
back. After more time talking about chickens
Yeah, chickens.
than soccer, we are back. And we're going to go ahead and talk about Jungle Gyms International podcast. This is episode 156, Open Your Jungle Eye on Dixie High Way with Third Eye Brewing. I actually watched this one on YouTube, which I did as well. I would strongly recommend watching this one versus just listening to it because some of the interactions were silent, so you only would know that they were happening if you are watching the video.
Right.
Absolutely fantastic. Kelly and Giannis from Third Eye. Giannis is the new brewer at Third Eye. He is from New Zealand. He is a Kiwi who is trying to figure out American beer.
Yes.
And that was a very cool part of this conversation. We'll get to that when we get to it. And then Ferg and Bo from Jungle Gyms were in attendance as well.
Yes.
So you had both the Eastgate and the Fairfield Jungle Gyms locations fully represented on this podcast.
Right. The beer guys for both.
Exactly.
I think first time that we've watched or listened where Fairfield and Eastgate were on
Well,
together.
Bo even said that this was his first podcast. So,
he did.
Yeah. So
first
this was
overall.
his first time on there. Let's see. They talked about the beer that they collaborated with, the Open Your Jungle Eye on Dixie High Way. It is a double New England IPA. They named the beer the way that they did because Jungle Gyms Fairfield and Third Eye Brewing Hamilton are both on Dixie Highway.
That's right.
Which I didn't realize. But now that I'm picturing the map in my head, I'm like, oh, you know what?
It's one of those
That's
things
really
that
cool.
I believe I remember that was mentioned previously, like before the opening. But I didn't.
Right.
It's not anything that stuck out of my head.
Sure, you're like, okay, this is the location. You don't connect it to really anything else until something like this happens.
Yeah.
The Jungle Gyms and Third Eye aesthetic is very, very similar. So could there be some legal ramifications for them sharing
And so
an
is
artistic style?
one of Mark Borison's suits that
All
was
of
not
his
in use on this particular day.
This is true. He was just wearing a very bland band T-shirt. They did try to discuss whose aesthetic would need to be slightly modified to contain an image from one of the other locations to not have any lawsuits happen between the two.
It's basically just a call out.
100%. Would you rather see a caricature of Mark Borison in the art at Third Eye, or would you rather see the Third Eye logo in the Jungle Gyms podcasting studio with Mark Borison?
Would you like to see a caricature of Joe Burrow?
Always.
Okay, I have one.
Oh, gosh. That is amazing. Was that done at Woodburn on Oktoberfest?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. I love it.
He wasn't in attendance, but yeah,
well,
it was
he
done.
should. Maybe he wasn't. He was just undercover. You never know.
You never know.
From there, they started talking to Giannis or Yanish, I think. I'm not exactly sure. There were a couple different, again, pronunciations of his name. So if I am saying your name incorrectly, I do apologize. What he's bringing to the table at Third Eye, because he is an import from New Zealand. He married an American.
Yeah.
And he had never brewed before until he became a regular at Third Eye. And they're like, you're here all the time anyway. Do you want a job? Which is surprisingly how a lot of people who aren't home brewers fall into jobs with local craft beer.
They asked how it was going.
Yeah. It was a fantastic conversation that still tied super closely to beer, but also gave a lot of insight onto just kind of the almost culture shock from a a beer scene perspective.
Yeah.
Like he's like, it amazes me you come over here and all the different creative ways that, Americans are brewing beer. Very similar to, I didn't flip back in my notes fast enough, but the amazing woman that Gnome talked to briefly during the Beercast part of the Cincy Brewcast podcast.
Right.
A lot of the things that we do with fruit purees and extra ingredients in beer, like they're not there yet. He said that New Zealand's beer scene is maybe 3 to 4 years behind the American beer scene.
Right.
But Americans are trying to make New Zealand style beers without the right New Zealand ingredients.
Right.
So he did say that that was a bit of a disappointment so far because he hasn't found a beer that really tastes like what he wants to drink from home.
Right.
But they did say that they are going to try.
They're going to give it a go.
They have it on the list to make a New Zealand lager.
Yep.
I think it's going to be one of the first beers that Giannis is 100% in control of for the brewing process. So that is going to be absolutely spectacular if they're able to make that happen. Or I'll say when they're able to make that happen.
I think it's when.
Because knowing that, knowing the way that Third Eye works and knowing how much they try to put into every beer that they make, when something like this comes up, they're going to go for it as soon as they are able to.
Yeah.
Talked about Rawaka hops, which are from New Zealand, and he said that they're only grown in a certain part of New Zealand.
Yep.
And it's even hard for breweries there to get them. So
it's the Rawaka region.
Is
it's
that the top
northern
of the south?
Southern part.
That's right, the top of the south.
The top of the south.
So to which they went, well, isn't that like either the northern part or like the central part? No, totally different.
It's not it.
It is the top.
It's like
of the
Coleraine
south.
in the west side.
It's just like the west side. Yes. So that's a good point. The Donnerschwaben is at the top of the west side, ish, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to have some discussions off air to talk about this.
Alrighty.
He talked about how they try to make beers similar to what we do here in the U.S., but even growing similar hops in different climates,
they're completely different.
Completely different, right? Like his example is Cascade. He goes, we had what we believed were Cascade hops from the same seeds and all that we grew in New Zealand, but it tasted completely different. So in New Zealand, we had to rename it because it's not at all what you would.
Right.
If you're expecting a Cascade hop beer, you know what you're expecting to taste, and this was absolutely not that at all.
I wanted to hear what they named it.
I know, so did I.
Because you could take Cascade from here in the States and Cascade from New Zealand, and you can use them at different points in the brew process, in the boil of the brew process, and you can come out with a beer
right
that is essentially the same hop. It's essentially single hopped, but it's completely it has completely different characteristics.
Right, exactly. It's the same hop, but 100% what you said. What else do we have here? Did Ferg's favorite Third Eye beer get dethroned with the several beers that they had on the table while they were recording this episode?
So this is all centered around the pint night that is coming up. And is that, as this podcast release, is that today or was that last Friday?
I think that was last Friday.
Okay.
Yes.
So talking about that pint night is really cool because not only were they tapping
the new collaboration,
the Third Eye, Dixie Eye. Not only were they having that, but they had some of Kelly's secret stash.
There may or may not be some left still when you go to Jungle Gyms in Fairfield. I think Eastgate is happening, might be this week, where they're doing a Third Eye Pint Night at the Eastgate location.
That they cover that too. Check the website. They cover that too.
Yes.
Why it's not the same day.
Correct. And there may be, or there may have been, depending on when you're listening to this, a guest appearance by someone from the Third Eye family.
Yes.
In attendance. Water talk. They started going into the water in Hamilton and all that. And it just reignited my desire for, I guess maybe Gnome would be the best person to do this, but for there to be like a water panel or a water episode from one of the Cincinnati beer podcasts to just kind of go over the differences. And I would love to see something that they brought up in this episode, the same beer, one made with, say, Avion water. Not that there's a family tie there or anything. except for there's totally a family tie there.
Family tie.
And Hamilton water. Do you taste a difference? What are the differences if there is a taste? I don't know. Is there a difference? Is there going to be a difference?
Yes.
And right, I think so. But what is that difference going to be, and which one would the people prefer? Will it be the? I say will it like this is going to happen. It might. You never know.
You never know. I'm going to say it's not
happening. Would people prefer the Hamilton water, or would they prefer like another type of bottled water or distilled water? Very interesting. I think it's fascinating. I would love for, like I said, someone to
if you use a
dive
distilled
more into
water,
that.
It's not gonna
well,
work
right,
out
because you have to have certain the minerals, the salts, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But still, very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. They talked about the benefits to scaling up Third Eye with the Hamilton space. Eastgate Jungle Gyms is now DORA approved. It is a DORA area.
It's kind of amazing.
It is. I mean, it's fantastic.
You have townships that can't become a DORA, and then you get jungle gyms.
They get jungle gyms.
That is a DORA. It's just unbelievable.
And
politics.
There was a pop quiz. Can you reuse your Dora cup?
Yeah. Well, there's the answer. there's the spirit of the rule, and then there's what could be on the in the gray.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the question was answered perfectly, and it's exactly what I would expect the answer to be from everyone in attendance.
Yep.
Yes, I believe Kelly was pleased.
I think overall Kelly was pleased. Yeah.
Last note that I had, they started talking about Kelly and Mark wrestling again, and how certain significant others and people would not be happy if that happened again due to some of the physical limitations.
I know somebody who had 1,000 bottles of lube that might help.
Yeah. I'm going to say...
By saying no, I've heard of this person. I don't know this person.
Since Punch-Out is never going to happen again...
Right. 50 West Punch-Out, by the way, people.
Yes. I would love to see a brewery wrestling event.
Ooh.
Where, brewer versus brewer, or, owner versus whatever, representatives from the Cincinnati breweries just having a good time, air quotes, fighting each other in the ring. Probably
wouldn't happen unless they were using those giant sumo suits.
That's fine. It would still be absolutely amazing. Right. I mean, I don't care how realistic or not it is, but I think some sort of brewer brawl.
Yeah.
We could call it, would be so much fun. Like some just friendly competition. You have a little beer fest going on surrounding it where you can get beers from all of the breweries that are participating. And you just have a good time. We really don't have a lot of that outside of really the Oktoberfest anymore.
Right.
You have multiple breweries, connecting with each other in that community sense. But when you add that additional event that, I say this, tongue-in-cheek, that pits the breweries against each other, for charity, for, whatever reason you want to. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be such a huge draw, I think.
You use the big sumo suits, that would be good.
Yeah. Or they have to be in, those big inflatable balls where they run each other and, bounce off and stuff, and whoever, gets bounced out of the ring first loses.
Yeah.
Oh, that could be hilarious.
Yeah.
That could be absolutely fantastic.
You basically have a... much like high school wrestling or college wrestling or Greco-Roman wrestling, where you had basically a ring around an area.
Yeah.
If you got bounced out of that ring, then that's a negative point. I
like it. Did you have any other notes for episode 156 of the Jungle Gyms International podcast?
No, we'll put that together for next year's Cincy Beer Week.
Sounds good. I do have a sip count for this episode because I watched it on the YouTubes. The episode was 44 minutes long.
Yeah, not bad.
And there were 5 people total on the pod that were all enjoying beverages.
Yep.
They took a total during this episode of 54 sips.
Ooh, all right.
So according
108.
According to our game, which if you're not familiar, every sip is a 2-ounce sip. Whether you consider that too big of a sip, too small of a sip,
don't care.
I don't know. Don't care. That's just what we decided.
This is what we're using.
So as you said, 108 ounces, which is 6.75 pints in this 45-minute episode, which is really just averaging out to just a little over a pint a person.
Ooh.
In 44 minutes.
Yeah.
It can be
but for
done.
one person, yeesh.
Right. Oh, yeah. If it's just a single person, that's not.
That's a big ask.
I don't think you should do that.
I'm not asking anyone to do it. I'm just saying if you are doing it, you need to send us a video, or it didn't happen.
Oh, but do we really want to see someone throw themselves into alcohol poisoning? I don't. So.
Well, we don't want you to get to that point.
No. Do we want to go ahead and roll into the next show? Do you need to take a break? What are
No,
your
let's take a break.
thoughts and
Let's let you watch a couple of minutes of soccer here.
Okay, well,
and then we'll come back.
Sounds good. We'll be, as Marcus said, right back. We have made it
back.
And Forward Madison is up 1-0 over Knoxville, so it was a fantastic break to be able to watch that without interruption from podcasting. Barstool Perspective from September 27th, 2024.
Yep.
Mike, he brought the hurricane to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentional or not. I don't know what Cincinnati
I mean,
ever
what do you
did to
think
him.
with Mike?
Well, yeah, this is true. Our expectations are low, but come on. Actually, you got a new beer. I'm still working on my absolutely amazing mango ale from my Rupee mango ale. But what do you have in your glass before we get into the weeds with Barstool Perspective?
Columbus Fest beer.
Oh, heck yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one. I actually did talk to Jason from Higher Gravity and asked, is there any chance that in the future you would do like Steins or liter pours or large format pours for Oktoberfest? Had a good conversation about it and just some of the logistical reasons on why that might not logistically work for the number of Oktoberfests that they have on draft at any one time. But then I said, well, you could also year-round offer those larger formats of like the lagers and like low G and some of that. And he goes, there's still a spreadsheet that I have to try to figure out. So you never know. I mean, if you go to Higher Gravity, just kind of pester them about, or not really pester, just gently suggest that a larger format for some of these beers could be fun. Could be fun to do. Anyway.
I think would be fun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it would be.
Just work on the spreadsheet.
Yes. All right, back to Barstool Perspectives. Brett is going to be gone for the next 2 weeks, leaving Mike in charge. God help us all.
But we get Lindsay Bonadonna.
Yes.
This coming Friday.
Correct. Who she was already a guest co-host on the show. Was absolutely spectacular. Yeah. I'm looking
Notice
forward
it's not
to...
the Gnome.
Could Gnome be there the week after? Well, no. With Cincy Beer Week, there's no way he's going to have time for that.
Well, maybe, but...
Maybe.
Or maybe
You never know.
They just liked Lindsay better.
Ooh. She is better looking. Do you have to say
Well, she
that?
showed up, or she's going to show up. Yeah.
Well, I'm going from the last time she was on the show.
Yeah.
As co-host. I mean, how
No,
how
what do you
would
think?
not?
Oh, you didn't show up. So how about that?
Well, I mean, it's a duct tape on his mouth. It's not that he didn't show up. We're just not letting him speak.
All right. Yeah. I don't know if we want to keep telling everybody how the sausage is made, Julia.
Oh, this is true. So all of you ignore that, except for maybe Patreon. We'll see. Let's see.
Those watching on the live stream.
Yeah, those on the live stream, they know way more about what's going on than they probably should.
Yeah.
I may need to do some very clever editing for that one. Breweries banning anyone under 16 years of age. What are your thoughts, Marco?
This is okay. So
it's a hairy topic.
I feel two ways about it.
Yeah.
Under 16 years of age, unattended,
Sure.
makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Under 16 years of age with a parent?
Period, yes.
I'm not for it. And I'll tell you why I'm not for it.
Okay.
It's strictly because of my experience with Vincent. Mm-hmm. You know, a large portion of the past, 10 or 15 years has been, he and I hanging out, having a soda, having a beer in a responsible way. Mm-hmm. And enjoying the space and the people in those brewery spaces. I get, though, with my job, I get that there are those outliers where
They're riding scooters in the tap room.
They're riding scooters in the tap room. You would never just bring a scooter into an Applebee's.
All of it has to do with there being a parenting problem. There are just some bad apples who show up somewhere with their children. They expect everyone else in that space to watch their children for them. That's not a brewery.
It's so ridiculous
That's
because
I don't.
People had a fit about a pack and play. The kid's not going anywhere.
Right,
it's in the
right.
fucking pack and play.
Yes, it takes
yet,
up space, but the kid's not tripping you while you're
kids on scooters in the fucking tap room.
Yes. You can always choose to go to another brewery that doesn't have that restriction.
I had actually considered asking Caroline, if she wanted to do a children's book hour where she sat at the place that I work at and for an hour read a children's book. Mm-hmm. And
like just by herself in the corner, like she's flipping through.
Facing the corner. Sitting cross-legged on the ground.
Crisscross applesauce.
Crisscross applesauce. Because we can't call it what we used to call it when we were growing up.
No.
But, I mean, you get the point. Is that I thought as something on a particular afternoon that, would be it would be inviting that to happen.
Sure.
It's the weird outliers where, and people do this with dogs too.
Oh, sure. There was a whole
thing about dogs just after kids. It's like,
absolutely.
People come into a space, a tap room space, and a tap room space that has food. I can't believe it.
Right.
They just bring their dog in there and they just sit down and order food and all. So like this,
you're right. You can't.
You're not on the patio. This isn't fucking France. I mean, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why do you think it's okay? Why do you think it's okay and no one's going to say something to you?
And I feel like that can kind of cover both bringing your kids and not watching them, not parenting them. I'm not talking about the people that are actually responsible and that make sure, no, while you're here, you stay in the seat next to me unless I am holding your hand and walking you to the bathroom or, whatever. I do think that if the brewery knows who they are and they're like, we don't want to say we're not family friendly, but this is a brewery and we want this to be an adult space to where you come to have adult time. I can very easily see them saying we're just not going to allow kids of whatever age, regardless of if they are chaperoned or not, because there are enough breweries still out there where they do say, bring your families. We are family friendly. We want to have all the kids, all the dogs, all the, emotional support ferrets, whatever you might have, show up. I think it's okay. I don't think that it is. If it's the only brewery in the city and all of a sudden that's out, I mean, it's a brewery. Like I do feel like I have to kind of side with Brett and Mike more, but again, I don't have kids, so I don't have that same experience that you do. So my lens is very narrow in that path.
I think 15 years ago, this would have been a thing that would be received by a lot of people as, of course, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think today, where so many breweries are trying to play in the same spaces as some of these chain restaurants. Yeah. I think it does not help them to take that stance. I get, and if Gnome was here, he would absolutely say that a brewery does not have to compete with Applebee's. Mm-hmm. A brewery just needs to know who they are, what they stand for, make great beer, and they can lean into that. And
but that doesn't always pay the bills.
What I would say is that you are in competition with anybody that serves alcohol, and if you serve food, you are in competition with anybody that serves food.
That makes sense, yeah.
And so that makes everybody out there that does those things and who has trivia and who hosts, any of these things, you're in competition with all of those. And so if you want to stand by all these old school indoctrinated, concepts that, I'm not going to make an IPA. I'm not going to make a New England IPA. I'm not going to allow kids. You're not going to have people there. I think a lot of places need to understand they need to stop being archaic in the way that they're thinking about this, go a little bit wider spectrum, and be okay with understanding that, look, this business needs to be a business. There's too many people depending on this to get your stubborn, old school doctrines out there, and you can live and die by the sword. And if your sword is so thin that it can only thread or it can only go through this one particular space forward, you're going to close.
Potentially.
I think more than not.
All I'm going to say is, like I said, I'm kind of on Brett and Mike's side with this one. If there was a adult only like brewery space, I would absolutely frequent it fairly often, just because sometimes you just don't want to.
I'm not saying it can't exist.
Sure, right. No. I know that.
I'm just saying overwhelmingly, it won't exist. This is the old.
Again, it's the whole. There are a few bad apples that ruin the whole bunch.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's the people that, again, they just show up with their dogs, their kids, whatever, and just expect that. Well, everyone else can kind of keep an eye on them. Someone else will let me know if they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. But by the time they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, they could potentially cause a major issue, depending on how the space is set up.
Sure,
what they may or may not have.
You're
access
right.
to,
I mean, at the place I managed before the place I was at, I mean, the production space was a lot larger, and there was a lot of times where the skee ball machine went into the production space, and then you had little kids running into the production space to go grab the skee ball.
Exactly. Look at like Gravel Road, places like that, to where you literally have like a chain separating the tap room from the production space.
Right.
If people aren't paying attention, and by people I mean the parents of the children, because again, it is not up to the bartenders to babysit. It is not up to anyone working at the brewery or the other patrons to say, hey, no, you can't go in there. If the parents aren't parenting their child, don't let them in.
Yeah.
It's not fair to the brewery. It's not fair to the business to say we are at risk of a potential accident or something because people are assholes and they're not responsible for their own spawn. I don't know.
Well, this is only at the very beginning of this episode,
so we should probably
crank
move
through
on.
The rest of this.
Left Hand Brewing, which I had a Left Hand Brewing Milk Stout on Nitro when I got here. It was absolutely phenomenal. It's a wonderful beer. Phenomenal. Economists have a very specific word for what financial state they may be in currently. Fucked. Yeah, you can't fix problems with more problems. It's.
I mean, if you're having money troubles, you might be able to kick the can down the road with a little more money.
A bit, right?
But ultimately, what you need to do is figure out actually what the solutions are to the problems.
Right. So,
and then buying another smaller brewery, I don't know how that's a solution to a problem.
Right, exactly. Which, on that note, they did, Brett and Mike did let everyone know that Brew Skies LLC is for sale.
It is.
And they will take cash or Venmo. Mm-hmm. Maybe PayPal, if you ask nicely.
Those are all valid forms of payment transaction or currency. So
I just need to know, what does that include? Does it include the
how
book
many
rights?
rupees
Does it include,
would that be? How many rupees would it take?
At least 15, I think.
15 rupees?
Yeah, I have no idea what the conversion rate is, so that's probably like 2 cents.
Well, this can was $6.25, so.
I'll tell you what, these beers are absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Utah lowered the legal blood alcohol content to reduce drunk driving deaths, which kind of worked up until it didn't.
No.
Yeah.
No, that is. That's a no.
I mean, it's like prohibition, overly strict regulations. Like, they don't work. They don't solve the problem. Like you said, they just kind of kick things down.
No, it's a ridiculous number. It's to the point where just make it zero.
Yeah.
That's really the thing. Is that what you're trying to do? Is make it so low it's not
that
zero?
It's not even a thing, right? So you even
just
smell
make it
the
zero.
beer, right? Just say absolutely not. Our legal limit is nothing. You just are not allowed.
As a state, you have the right to decide that.
Absolutely.
Just put your nuts on the table and do it. And you know what?
Go for it.
You'll be the worst for it. Believe me.
No kidding. They had some more stock advice, which is kind of the same as last week. Buy Tilray stock. It is super cheap right now. And you're probably about to see a shit ton of CBD brands coming out of all the different companies and like sub segments of Tilray.
Okay.
Coming in the near future. I mean, if I had tens of dollars, maybe I would buy like a stock for $1.50.
Yeah.
A single stock and see what happens, but
A whole one.
I need to hold on to the little money that I do have.
Yeah.
So I don't think that
So that we can buy beer at
we-
higher gravity.
100%. Aluminum tariffs are going up 3 times. So all I'm going to say to that is hashtag bring back the bottle and hashtag put the Coke back in Coke. Last note that I had from the can review.
Yeah.
They did Wicked Weeds Pernicious. And we're not going to tell you what they thought about it, how it tasted from the can as opposed to in a glass.
I'm not going to tell you what they thought about it. I'm going to tell you the very first time I ever had Pernicious, bringing us full circle back to Asheville. A coworker of mine was going to Asheville on a vacation, said, what can I bring back for you? And I said, I like Wicked Weed. I said, this is an IPA. They make Pernicious. I'd like to have that. They brought it back. I had it. And in that moment, after the very first sip, I had to text them and say, this might be the best beer I've ever had.
I've never had it. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, yes. Those are all the notes that I had. I do have a sip count.
Let's go.
Because, we're watching this, of course. They did say, they actually did say that these episodes may be showing up in a podcatcher at some point in the future, so you will be able to listen to them as well. So if you are not already subscribed to the Brew Skies, the Brew Skies Happy Hour podcast,
Right.
Until they tell you that there's another podcast channel these are going to be on, subscribe, listen to the episodes. They are absolutely amazing.
They're great.
Buy their book, Tanked in Cincinnati, and let's find out how many sips they took in this 38-minute episode.
Let's go.
Mike took a total of 17.
Okay, very good.
Brett took a total of 25.
Ah, wow.
And
okay.
he did ask in the chat, hey, how's the sip count going? And I said, it is right where it should be.
Nice.
Back to our expected limits, or expected numbers. That's a total of 42
yeah.
countables. I almost said sippables, which would have been weird. 84 ounces, according to our drinking game. That is 5.25 pints
in 38
minutes.
Yeah, wow. That's
hard. That's
some
tricky.
work.
That's hardcore right there.
Working it.
No freaking kidding. Did you have anything else on Barstool Perspective before we go ahead and run through another show? Because we still have the Weekly Pint, Miami Valley Craft Beer Podcast, and Cincy Brewcast.
No.
Okay.
Let's go.
Weekly Pint. Let's
Weekly
go ahead and
Pint.
move to that because that was a
Shorter.
shorter-ish episode, so we should be able to go through this pretty quickly. Episode 231, Cincy Beer Week is finally almost here, and I need a nap.
The wait is over.
I can't even
The
begin to
wait is over,
manage
Julia.
how tired he is. We would ask him, but he's still passed out from the
Huh?
chloroform. And
How is it?
He's not
Huh?
here. Totally not here to ask.
Yeah.
He's not passed out in the corner. I think Nick accidentally tripped over him once. That was a little iffy, but you know what? All good. Let's see. Corruption Fest at Wooden Cask is happening October 5th, along with 5 billion other events.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm kind of sad I'm going to be out of town, so I won't be able to show up and buy my mixed six-pack. They're having a mixed six-pack of different variants of Corruption. Each sound amazing, and they're also going to have on draft only another 6 variants.
Mm-hmm.
So if you
Yep.
like Corruption, if you like barrel-aged stouts, my God, you need to be down at Wooden Cask on October 5th. Gnome did put in the disclaimer that, they are a client of his, but he's honest about what he thinks about the beer. And Gnome's description of his evening beer is absolutely amazing. It's like elks and mushrooms and forests.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It is. I never knew what an elk tasted like. Cincy Beer Week updates, bar crawls, special beer tappings. It's going to be an absolute blast. I'm already trying to figure out how many events I can legitimately make it to without A, pissing off Josh, and B, just running myself into sheer exhaustion and a coma and just
Well,
all kinds of things. But man,
if somebody's out there who's going to be a diehard and go to all these events,
there's no way you can go to all of them. Yeah,
hit us up on social media. Let us know that you're going to be there. Or let us know which ones
how
you're
many
going to be.
events you went to, and we'll see who was able to get to the most Cincy Beer Week events. And if you don't know what events are all happening during Cincy Beer Week, go to cincybeerweek.com. Check the website. Absolutely everything you need to know is there. So check the website, check the website, check the website. Dogberry, another bit of sad news. Dogberry is, as of now, officially closed.
Yeah.
There is still, I'm sure, a chance that maybe there are talks about them being bought. Maybe it'll reopen as a different type of space, a different brewery. Maybe someone will buy the name and Dogberry will reopen as a new fresh Dogberry. No one really knows at this point, but man, the couple times that I went up there, I always enjoyed it. I always enjoyed talking to everyone up there, and I wish absolutely everyone the very best. And cheers to them for, 9 amazing years?
Is it 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I wish all of them the best. Mm-hmm. And this wasn't without warning. This wasn't like the BC situation.
The Lodge, yeah.
We did get warning that this was gonna happen, and now it has.
Right. I did like how Gnome went into the history of Cincy Brewcast and how it ties into Dogberry.
Yeah.
So it definitely has a very strong. It is a strong piece of history for Cincy Brewcast and everything that Gnome was doing from when he and Mike first started Cincy Brewcast and how everything has grown from there. I think that Dogberry was the first brewery, or one of the first breweries that his kids, went to and all that. So cheers to them for for closing on their own terms, but it is definitely a bit of a blow to the Cincinnati craft beer scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Oktoberfest episode. They talked a little bit about that. This is Cincy Brewcast, but they did mention it. Elijah was the producer for that. So when we get to that episode, that'll either be next or the last one that we talk about.
Depending.
Probably the last one. I think the last
Probably
one.
the last one. Let's go last.
Because it's, I'll give my thoughts when we get to that recap. Hearth Brewing is now open, which I do have to say I got a kick out of Craft Parenting Podcast social media post. So they opened on Saturday the 28th.
Yeah.
Craft Parenting Podcast made a post on Sunday. We finally made it. I'm like, final. The place hasn't even been open a full 24 hours.
Yeah.
You're still ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Like if it was 3 months down the road, then you can say, man, we finally made it. But come on.
Finally made it.
Finally made it less than 2 hours after the doors first opened. I thought that was funny. I got a kick out of that. Gnome was there for the soft opening, and I'm looking forward to getting down there at some point. And
you weren't invited to the soft opening?
I mean, it was a soft opening. I think anyone could have just wandered in.
But they didn't invite you? I mean, as the gatekeeper for the West Side breweries?
No, they were worried about their rear view mirrors, or their side view mirrors.
Yeah,
so,
makes sense.
Yeah, it's fine.
West Side,
it's fine.
so.
Talked a bit about the art in poking beers.
Yeah.
So that was, whenever you get around to poking things, it's always fantastic.
Always an art.
It's always
an art
yes.
with poking.
And maybe buy a North Carolina beer in support of the flood victims in Asheville. Not that your purchase of a North Carolina brewery's beer, Highway or whatever, will necessarily contribute to relief efforts down there, but just in solidarity for what the Asheville beer scene is going through.
Yeah.
Just buy a beer from the area if you're able to, and just whatever you're able to do to contribute to potentially help their efforts.
And I know Julie and I know this, and I assume a lot of our audience knows, but places like Sierra Nevada, places like New Belgium, those
even
were
the Highwire location
and Highwire,
there,
those locations were production facilities for the entire East Coast.
Yeah.
Basically the east side or east half of the United States that they distribute to.
Right. So we will see some impact from them as they work to do what they need to do to reopen and reestablish their presence. I think Sierra Nevada was the least impacted. There was some flooding there, but they weren't multiple feet underwater like Highwire and multiple footsies. There we go. Yep. And that's all that I had for this episode of The Weekly Pint.
All right, let's move on.
All right, sip count, though, before we move on. Sip and sniff, because there was a very...
There's a sensory.
The ratio was way off.
The sensories.
He had a corruption beer, so he was drinking something barrel-aged, so he knew it was going to be kind of a slow sipper.
Yeah.
12...
Is it 9%?
That sounds right. I could be wrong, but that sounds right.
Our truth, whatever. Fuck it.
He took 12 sniffs.
Wow.
And he only took one sip.
Yeah, I thought that was the case.
It was a little, yeah, but that's all right. That's all right. So that's 13 total countables, which is 26 ounces.
Oh, no, I like ounces.
Ounces?
Yeah.
All right, and that's 1.625 pints in this episode.
Totally doable.
Absolutely doable. All right, we're starting to hit a bit of a time crunch, so what do you say we start running through the Miami Valley Craft Beer Podcast?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, this is episode 29, The Gnarly Gnome. Blake met up with a Gnome at Third Eye Brewing. They didn't say if it was Hamilton or Sharonville, but purely based off of the background noise, which sounded like they were sitting right next to a highway, I'm going to guess Sharonville. I could be wrong, but again, they didn't really clarify. I will say there was a lot of background noise to this episode. It was a little hard to hear just because the highs got kind of blown out, but you still were able to hear enough to get some really great conversation out of the episode.
Yep.
Let's see. Does Gnome even remember his first craft beer? I feel like we've gotten kind of two stories from Gnome on this one if you followed him for a long amount of time. I mean, excuse me, this isn't a conversation that I think he's touched on super recently. Let's see, there used to be more Cincy beer bloggers than there were breweries, and all of them seem to have separate forums, like separate things that they focus on. Some focus on the food that the breweries offered, some focus on the beer releases, some focused on the space, some focused on the people, and a lot of them got jobs in the beer industry. Some of them kind of faded out to focus on, just other parts of their lives. But the fact that there used to be so many when the Cincy beer scene was still so young and new.
Right.
Like I love that there was so much passion for the beer scene from its infancy.
Can you imagine if there were 70 plus podcasts that we had to talk about every week? We just couldn't do it. We'd have to pick.
Yeah, we'd have to rotate in and out. We'd have to figure out, okay, which one haven't we talked about in a while to try to highlight.
Yeah. We'd have to rotate 5 or 6.
I'm sad that we are down like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 podcasts, depending on the week.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it does make things a little bit easier on the weeks that every one of the currently existing one puts something out.
Yeah, I mean, even this week, what do we have, 6 pieces of content?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a stretch to fit it into a...
less than a week, because we kind of have to be ready.
Yeah.
It's not like we have from Tuesday to Tuesday. We have kind of from like Wednesday to Monday.
Right.
Sort of thing. Kind of, slight peek behind the curtain there. Let's see. The Miami Valley Craft Beer Podcast is not a fake-ass podcast. They actually drink on the show.
They do.
Which is fantastic.
Allegedly.
So, Blake, cheers to you for that. I believe Gnome. I don't think Gnome would lie about that kind of thing.
I don't think he would.
I don't think he would lie about beer. So props to you guys on that. I don't know why I'm putting we in there. I didn't do a damn thing for this podcast. Gnome talked about how the blog led to Cincy Brewcast and all the other things that Gnome has created and really turned into a full career at this point.
Now he's Gnome Creative.
Mm-hmm. The origins of From the Beer Fridge.
Yes.
Which is fun.
Which is what it sounds like, but yes.
Yeah, but still, I mean, some people are like, oh, well, that's just kind of like a quip. That's kind of just a little thing that you say. There was actually a beer fridge.
It is now.
Sure.
But there used to be.
Right, exactly. How the Weekly Pint started as basically a almost required virtual happy hour, and now it's its own thing, its own living, breathing show that is not a show.
Right.
How podcasting has changed since Gnome first started. It is so much easier to start a podcast, to get it out into the world, than when he and Mike started Cincy Brewcast, where you would tell people about it and they go, what's a podcast? Gnome revealed his harassment techniques for getting guests on your show, which maybe we need to implement some of those.
Yeah.
The cost of beer is worrying. But Cincy is still staying somewhat reasonable as far as like the cost per pint. It all depends on the beer itself, but
I think
the
it's,
local breweries are. We're not looking at $10 and $12 pints unless it's
still
something,
concerning.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I'm not trying to say that it's not, but I feel like the growth or the increase in prices in the Cincinnati market is slower than some other markets, California or some other place that I haven't been to.
And like I
so
said,
I'm not speaking from experience.
Like I said last week, that's solely because everybody who's manufacturing this product is trying not to make it the retail price that a spreadsheet says it should be.
Oh, absolutely. Right. No, absolutely. I'm with you 100%.
You know, it's just, it's tough. It's really tough.
Gnome talked about something that he has mentioned many times before. He doesn't believe that a large segment of drinkers actually know what they want to drink. They're like, oh, I'll just try this. Okay, this tastes good. And they don't even think about it, whether that's a seltzer, a cider, a beer, a wine, a spirit. Like, they don't put any focus into trying to learn, okay, what does this space that I'm in have to offer? They don't want to ask the bartender for any recommendations. It's just, oh, what do you have that tastes like? I like strawberries. What do you have that's like a strawberry? And wherever they're at might say, well, we have this, Sway from Mad Tree, or we have this, I like mango. Here's a mango White Claw. And without even questioning, oh, okay, I'll just take that. And they don't really dive into, well, what other options do I have that might still meet this flavor profile that I would like to try to stick to for this evening? I don't know.
It's really strange in the sense that I was really of the belief when I was homebrewing beer for 10 years, and then I finally got into the craft beer business for, the time that I did as a brewer, and then now I'm in as a taproom manager. Mm-hmm. I really felt what was happening was we were able to show our youth coming up now that we enjoyed these things that were local and crafted and important to us, and show them these spaces that we liked, and believe in the proprietors of these businesses and the people that worked at these businesses.
Yeah.
What it seems is that there's a little bit of that connection going on, but it seems like there's a little bit of wanting to spread their wings into other things, which is absolutely fine.
Sure,
and what being a young adult is part of.
Right, exploration is part of growing into the person that...
Yeah, and so what I think is that at some point there will be a turn back into these loyalties and familiarities, or new loyalties and familiarities that they come up with. Yeah. And I do think at that point, when they can also afford these things.
That is a huge part of it.
Because one of the things is that as the youth become adult and then go into adulting, they're just in a different... They're in just a different financial place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think once they come around to the space where they're getting the types of jobs that they want to get, getting the type of income they want to get, and they can dig into those things that are important to them, I think that's going to come back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that was very well put. There was some talk about Cincy Beer Week. Again, go to cincybeerweek.com, check the website, go to all the events. Talked about a little bit of Oktoberfest Quest talk. They talked about how many more breweries can the Cincinnati area support. There is no limit, according to the Gnome. There are still nowhere near enough breweries in the city. And talked a bit about breweries making one-off tap handles for certain places. One of the big ones that I first thought of was Westside, and the Delhi IPA that they made for Delhi. Low G here for Higher Gravity. El Rancho Grande, the beer they're making for them. Yeah. There are a lot of places that do make, Fretboard does a couple for, I think, the Fulling Warehouse and... Sammy's, right. I know. I'm like, there are 2 or 3 other places that they do kind of these one-off beers for. And I think that that's fantastic. Get kind of your name out there, but still let these spaces have their own thing.
Yeah.
And
I agree. I agree that there's space for stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Those are all the notes that I had for this episode of the Miami Valley Craft Beer Podcast. It was nice hearing Gnome not leading the interview, but just being able to talk,
Right.
if that makes sense. So
Last time we had that, I felt like was when he was on the Brewery Explorers podcast.
yeah. Also with Blake.
Yeah,
Maybe it's Blake.
maybe it is.
Fantastic job, Blake. Looking forward to the next episode. We have one more episode to cover, so we're going to take a real quick break, and then we're going to dive into one of my favorite Cincy Brewcast episodes of each and every year, Sonder's Oktoberfest.
Hell yeah.
We'll be right back. Well, he broke out of
Gotta stay on track. Stay on track.
He broke out of the duct tape. He recovered from the chloroform. So, no,
Stay
it's
on
so
track.
good. It's so good to have you show up.
I'm glad to be here.
For the last
told me I'm
show
supposed
of
to
the
stay on track.
episode.
Stay on track.
Yes,
Stay on track.
Yes,
I got
yes,
this.
Yes. We are going to talk about Cincy Brewcast, Volume 10, Episode 14, Finding at Sonder's Oktoberfest.
Gemütlichkeit.
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 I thought it sounded better the way that I said it.
How would you pronounce it?
Gemütlichkeit.
Okay.
No.
Is that your
Gemütlichkeit.
actual?
No.
Okay, let me-
It's not. That's just me being an asshole.
Gemütlichkeit.
Okay. That's pretty
Gemütlichkeit.
good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I know that I'm not going to pronounce it correctly unless I really
All right, so we
practice,
said it
but
10
yes.
times already. What does it mean, Gnome?
What does it mean to you guys? That's what I want to hear.
That really is.
I tried to explain it on the show. I want to hear like your interpretation of it.
I feel it means the intangible sense of
You can't use
community.
intangible. Nope. All right,
Yes,
start
you
again.
can.
Start
Yes,
again.
you
Nope.
can.
Nope. That's
What? First and foremost, cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Prost.
Prost.
You made it out of the.
Are you doing the Columbus
duct
Fest
tape.
beer? I'm guessing because your beer looks
Absolutely.
very similar to mine.
Absolutely.
All right.
We can't all drink at the same time.
So-
There has to be some kind of sound. Jesus.
We don't. We're new to this podcasting thing.
Oh,
we
come
don't know
on,
what's
guys.
It
happening.
can't be intangible. If it's a
Right.
feeling,
Yeah.
then it's not tangible.
Maybe. Okay, continue. I'll accept. Continue. Continue.
Marco, we are
accept it.
on a time
I feel
crunch.
time
You
frame.
need to start speaking.
I feel that it's the. How about the overwhelming sense of community in a space?
I like that.
That's really similar to what I was going to say, but I was going to do a little more of a, not like overwhelming feeling of community, but finding a sense of community and purpose with the people that you're enjoying being around.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
There-
very, very similar, but a little.
To me, there's a key part of it that's warmth. Like the warmth of this, like a space or a situation.
So you feel
Like
that
an
warmth
actual
is tangible.
physical warmth? Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
tangible. Okay.
It's
So
not
more of
tangible.
I thought we established that.
So it
you,
is
just, you
intangible.
just said a minute ago it was supposed to be intangible.
But if you have the poker, it's going to be warm. So there
Yeah,
is
it
going to be
was
a
warm.
tangible.
Yeah. Hey now.
No,
And-
I
okay.
think like when you like walk into a room, and there's a fireplace going, and somebody's poking a beer. And there's somebody else like making soup, and like there's somebody like sitting in a couch with a blanket, like that warmth, cuddly. It's cuddly.
It's cuddly. Oh, okay.
Cuddly.
Gemütlich cuddly.
Cuddly.
Gemütlich. I don't know. Why not? I want
You
to
wear
say
a big furry costume.
that no, absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
The Sonder and
Should I
Friends.
take this off?
If you don't mind, it's
Says
making me a
Ryan.
little uncomfortable. But
I thought it would be better if I just left the top half and kept the bottom half off. Nope.
Who is it? Mike from Monsters Inc. Is that who that is?
I don't know. I've never seen Monsters Inc.
All right. never
Michael
mind.
brings the D Morgan.
Right, I know. It's,
Just the top half.
we are already just so far off track,
Yeah.
and this is
Oh, man.
amazing. This is all kinds of amazing. The Sonder and Friends Oktoberfest shows are my favorite Cincy Brewcast shows.
I love
of
them.
every single year. Like
I
they
love
are
them.
my absolute favorite.
And I hate them because I never know what they're going to look like.
That's a part of the.
I tried
but they're
to.
always amazing.
I tried to
They're
make a
always
video
amazing.
this
Have
time,
faith that
and-
they're going to be amazing.
Maybe the video will actually exist because God knows how many videos I've
Wasn't-
made that don't exist.
Wasn't
I
there
made
a video from 2 years ago?
maybe.
I think.
Maybe.
Okay.
No, so I made
Or-
a video preparing for
Oh,
this,
I see,
this
I
year's
see.
Oktoberfest.
I thought you meant
Show.
of the show. Okay.
Trying to explain what you have to prepare for walking into the show
Oh, I
not
like
knowing the
that.
show. So like this
Yeah.
morning,
Yeah.
or not this morning, that morning, standing there in my pajama pants, me packing the podcast in
Oh
a
my
trunk.
God.
It's like a trunk. It's kind of like a
No,
trunk.
no,
Yeah.
let's move on. No,
It's like
no.
a-
Justin, Danny, and Chad.
Yes.
We're
We're-
sweating
we're-
to the oldies shorts with it hanging out the bottom.
No.
No, they weren't
We're
hanging
on
out.
The
It was just-
podcast,
it's just-
and
just-
Elijah was producing. No,
Elijah.
We're not. Props to Elijah, who did a great job until he didn't.
Yeah, I also think he moved the camera a little bit.
Oh, he just kind of bumped into
He
it.
looked the
then.
part though, didn't he? He was in his Oktoberfest hat with his curly
Got the,
tie him
the
to
mustache. Yeah.
tie him to the train tracks mustache.
Yep. It was funny.
I'll just let you guys go and
It's I showed up. I had all my stuff, all my bags, all my
Yeah, you
things, and I walked walked out. And I walked out and I found Danny. I said, "Danny, I'm ready." It's
and he
it's-
said, "You got to put your pants on, man.
It's
You can't do
raining. It's raining. I'm soaking wet.
raining.
How are we going to do this?" And he said, "I don't care. We can set up right here. We can set up over there. I don't care." He's like, "But it probably makes sense to go in the tap room and find a corner." He's like, "Go to the little event room. I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
Go
that
to the
little-
hallway by the bathroom.
Yeah.
No, other side.
know,
It's the other
I know.
side,
Other
by,
side.
by where the,
Where the
sour,
barrels were. Yeah,
by
where
where
the
the
sour-
sour
yes.
facility used to
The
be.
anti-bathroom. Go to the anti-bathroom, and I'm pretty sure
Anywhere's a bathroom.
there should be a corner there. Nobody will set up there. If there's a table, grab it. I'm like, that's fine. I got it. So I put my stuff out, grab all my things, and there's all kinds of bags and things that I'm just carrying around, dragging them with me. And I go to the anti-bathroom, and sure enough, there is a half a table. The other half of the table is taken up by Elijah.
Oh,
And I said, "Oh."
You
So
show
he
him
was-
your
so he
junk
was-
and assert your
That's
so
dominance.
convenient.
Elijah was just man-spreading with an entire half of a table.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all
And I
right.
said,
That
"Elijah,
tracks.
I'm taking over your table. You can hang out here, but I need you to hold this,
Jesus.
and I need you to hold this." And you're now the producer. And we set up, and it worked out.
It was a fantastic episode.
Well, thank
but
you.
But it needed more cowbell.
It
Absolutely
always
needed
needs more
more
cowbell.
cowbell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some discussion about the differences between fest beers and Märtzens, which I feel like it almost has to be part of any Oktoberfest
Oh my God.
podcast or video.
Did I argue with Elijah on the show, or was that before the show? And then I explained that I argued with Elijah before the show.
No, it wasn't on the show.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I
But that
feel
would
like
be a fun behind the scenes.
I feel like nobody gets it. I feel like it's still this weird thing that
Right,
nobody
fest beer
understands.
Fest beer, even though it looks
Fest beer's
lighter,
higher
should be the
ABV.
higher ABV. Right, right.
supposed to be.
I don't know. Look at IPAs. If it's properly done, West Coast clear, it's going to be a little higher
Yep.
than
Yep.
like an American IPA or whatever an IPA actually means. Totally different discussion for a different day.
Can I tell a funny story?
Sure.
Yeah.
She said sure, but I don't think she really wants me to.
Well,
I feel like she's.
Marco's on a
That's
time
fine.
crunch,
That's fine.
and it's like I'd like to talk about the episode, but if you just want to,
No, this is a
talk,
funny behind the
so go
scenes
for it.
story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Sonder made a Märzen this year,
Yes.
which we talked about in the episode.
Yes.
Logan, one of their brewers, made the Märzen. So
So this is the story of Logan.
this is the story of Logan, sort of.
This
So
is the story
right
of-
after we finished the episode, then we headed out to the tent and we drank and poked and did the whole thing. And in the tent, it's actually what we did. We did that.
Yeah.
We
Were
did
your
those
pants
things.
on or off
Hey
at this
now.
point? It's
Both.
when you're talking about poke.
different times. It's not that. That's
Hey.
that's nothing to do with Logan. Logan was hanging out in the tent, and I was standing there next to Elijah, and I said, "Elijah, you want to see something funny?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "See that guy right there?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "That's Logan. He's the guy that made the Märzen." I'm gonna go tell him it tastes like shit.
Oh God.
So I put my stuff down and I splashed through all the puddles and I walked up and I said, "Hey, do you work for Sonder? You got a Sonder shirt? You work for Sonder?" And he said, "Yeah, I work for Sonder." And I said, "Okay, good. I've been drinking a bunch of Oktoberfest beer today. Drink
So
a lot
he
of
didn't know who you
Oktoberfest
were?
beer. No
Okay,
idea."
cool, awesome.
And I said, "I had the Oktoberfest and the Marzen. I had them both."
Oh God.
That Marzen, man, that beer tastes like crap. What did they do to that thing? That is a terrible beer, and you need to pass that on to your boss and tell him that is a terrible beer. And the look on his face, it was just pure like sadness and dejection and everything. His buddy there, like squared up. He got angry and he's ready. He's ready to just like clock me. As soon as he gets the word, he's just shoulders up. And I said, man, I'm kidding. That's a great beer. I'm the Gnarly Gnome, and I drank a bunch of your beer, and it's really good. He's like, oh, thank God, man. I got so worried. Meanwhile, it's raining, and there's like this like huge lake forming around us, and it was great. It was good. Yeah.
Oh man, that's awesome. That is
sorry,
fantastic.
Logan. Sorry to do that to you. I'm not sorry. It was so good.
Sorry, but I'm not going to
That's
apologize.
worth it. What makes an Oktoberfest fest successful and fun?
Gnome has a list. He's got
He's a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
4-part list.
Yeah, 4-part list.
Yes.
Can you guys name the 4 parts?
Pretzels, wiener dogs, chicken dance, and then a beer stein holding competition.
That's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was going to say.
Who's she texting?
Yeah. I am opening up the NFL Deathmatch Challenge spreadsheet because we still have to do that too. Justin admitted that he has bad taste when it comes to Jaeger. There was a whole big thing about Jägermeister. There was an incredible just rabbit hole, and you explaining how you get into these rabbit holes and how you know this information.
It's my life.
How the hell do you know this?
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to have a beer drinkers book exchange to where everyone brings a book that they're reading, be it industry related or just whatever, fantasy novel, whatever that they're reading, and just kind of start swapping.
Sure.
That's my little tangent for this. What has more spices, Jägermeister or Dr. Pepper?
Jaeger.
Jaeger, absolutely, by like double. A little more than double, actually. Let's see, what else do we have here? How many hops is too many hops for a beer? Let's see, picking which of your friends can come to your birthday party. That was an interesting topic. Like how, it's kind of like picking, the hops that you add. Well,
I invited
like all
everybody
of them.
to my birthday party.
And how many people showed up?
Like 7.
I don't remember getting the invite.
2 of the 7 were here.
Yes, you did.
I know, I got it.
You definitely got the invite.
I was there. I was trying to make it funny.
Dogberry, R.I.P.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, we've already poured out several
can't even.
for
We already
them.
did that.
Dogberry BCs. Oh,
I was going to say.
Yeah,
although
we did cover
all
that too.
BCs, not all the BCs,
just the lodge.
Original. Sonder has
There you
their
go.
own
Realize
food
it doesn't have
program,
fingers.
and they talked about how that impacts
Hold it faster.
Oktoberfest and how they're able to impact Oktoberfest with that. Hurricane weather and when the panic button was pulled out with can they move forward with Oktoberfest or not. You had a fight in the parking lot with a 79-year-old woman. Oh my God.
She wasn't 7. She might have been 79.
She might have been 79.
Yeah, she was.
Yes.
She acted like she was 79.
That's just as rude as bringing your child to a brewery.
I feel like I handled it pretty good.
It sounded like you did.
I wanted to throw something at her, and I didn't do that.
Did you throw a bird up into the air? No,
I didn't even do that. I
Then,
just
then
said,
you did great.
Ma'am,
Then you did great.
I just said, ma'am, you're kind of a jerk.
I hope you have the day you deserve. That's what you.
I didn't even do that.
That's
I
the
just said,
only
ma'am,
thing that I would have
you
added to
are
that.
kind of a jerk.
Yes. Let's see.
I love that. I love that comment. That's a useful comment. I hope you have the day you deserve.
I wish I
I think
could have
it's
bought her a
fantastic.
beer when I saw her inside.
That would have pissed her off probably.
Julia, it's time.
no.
Shit!
Oh, no.
Shit! We're doing this. I didn't hit the right one.
What are all the? Get them off the table.
The
What is
fuck
that?
I don't know. I have no idea what that is.
And why are these
Oh my-
dicks all over the table? This is why we got to bring
heard
the
Don the
recorder.
Rock.
Yeah, but that's not like the short little clip that it's supposed to be. Sure, we'll go with
Okay.
this.
There it is.
All right, that means it's time for the Truth, Beer, and Consequences NFL Deathmatch Challenge. Last week, I will default to you guys. From what
Okay.
I saw, I don't think the refs made any game-altering mistakes.
Wow.
But again, I was going by what the actual
Okay.
commentators and the officiating commentators were saying
Game
to try to avoid
altering.
bias.
Game altering is a very,
All right.
very.
But I will see what you guys think. Do I deserve a point or not?
I think no. I think every call that they make is game altering at this point. But
All right.
I'm very biased. I'm a
right.
Bengals fan.
Who did get points last week?
Was
She's trying to figure
score
out if she got
impacting?
points.
Because the way I saw it, I think I was able to get a point, but again, I'm trying
was
to
your
make
team?
sure. I picked
She
the
took the
fucking
refs.
refs.
Were you?
They did win.
Jesus.
They did win.
I don't
did
think they
win?
won,
Okay.
but whatever.
All right.
It's fine. I'll accept
All
it.
right.
I know the Saints
Gnome,
lost.
Gnome, who are you picking? Yes.
I
yes.
know
So-
the Saints lost
so we
and the
both got a
Bengals
point.
won.
So Gnome and I both
Yeah,
got a point.
so
All
I'm
right.
going to, yes.
All right.
Who are
let
you,
me-
Marco? Who's your team?
All right, I am going to
Actually, I'm
take-
putting Gnome down for the Bengals because I know that's what you're doing.
No,
While Marco,
you don't know that. Hang on.
Come on. While Marco looks
look at my
up
notes.
the
I'm gonna
DraftKings
take-
scores.
I'm going to take the New England Patriots versus the
Oh.
Miami Dolphins because the Dolphins are terrible. The Dolphins are in trouble.
Okay.
I'm picking the Patriots.
All right, Gnome, how about you?
All right, let me look at my notes.
I'm going with the Vikings because they've been doing a kick-ass job, and they're playing the Jets in Week 5, so I think they got it. Have you found your notes yet,
I'm looking.
Gnome?
You said week 5?
Week 5.
Okay, let me look. Oh, okay. Who day?
All right,
I'm going Bengals.
all right.
That is
Those have
a
been entered
3-point
into-
spread versus Baltimore. All right, let's get back to the podcast review.
Yeah, shout out to Don Rock the Imposter for the terribly placed recorder music that I put in here. The music's fantastic. I just fucked up my button. Fantastic
Oh, hey
recorder
now.
things. Thank
Okay.
you to Don Rock
Sometimes you
the
gotta-
Imposter on YouTube for letting us use this music in our episodes. Some beers were poked. You had a fight in the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah,
From the
there's
outside
pro.
looking in, the culture at Sonder is the same as day one, which Sonder has put a lot of effort into. What happens if you poke Jägermeister? Country Boy made an appearance, not in person, but in talk.
Right.
And was Gnome bribed to try to get Sonder another golden gnome in this
It's definitely bribed. I've been bribed by a lot of
I mean,
places.
there's a few places, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm okay with it.
I missed the end of the match. I don't know who.
What? But were we
yeah.
competing?
I think it went 1-1.
What?
I'm good with that.
I missed something.
Forward Madison game. Nick put that on for me so I could. Oh, there we go.
Competing?
Yes. Does
Put them
any-
out.
This is, as I said, this is one of my all-time favorite episodes of every single season of Cincy Brewcast.
I agree.
Of course.
It is so much fun.
Yes.
Do
Always.
either of you have any other notes before we wrap this up? Because
yeah, I
we just
know,
didn't
I
have the
know.
time we needed to.
I know. I'm on a
focus.
time crunch here, but you get to play the hits where within the first minute of the podcast, tell them that they used to have a podcast.
Oh yeah.
We didn't even get to talk about Justin's mustache.
I've not seen that.
I have not
fantastic.
seen it either. Yeah.
I did not know clearly because there's a story where Justin was like trying to flag me down, wave me down, where he said he was like next to me at a stoplight, and
Oh,
I just
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even didn't
You
recognize
were
him.
in the zone.
When they say Sonder and Friends,
It's probably because you didn't recognize with that damn mustache.
I was at they wanted Cellar Dweller beer at Sonder and Friends Oktoberfest because of the connections that we had made.
Sure.
And that's touching. And it's
They touched you?
no. Anyway, in my heart. But
We're at over an hour of recording time. That's all.
I hope I'm able to make it to Sonder and Friends Oktoberfest next year. I really regret that I missed it.
It was so
Same.
much. It was so
Same.
much fun this year. Like it was, the rain sucked, but
Yeah.
the rain
But that also
almost
probably made it
almost
so
made
much
it
better, yeah.
so
Yeah.
good. Like
Yeah.
after the show was done, hanging out there, like just poking beers out in the rain. Like oh, so much fun. It was
Yeah.
the best.
That is awesome. Check out this episode of Cincy Brewcast, the Oktoberfest Quest episode, or Oktoberfest Quest. The Sonder and Friends Oktoberfest episodes are always the best kind of chaos. They are so much
Yeah.
fun. You hear the camaraderie with the craft beer community, with Sonder.
And what the fuck, Mark?
They're the best.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, he's got busier things that he's got to do. What's fun to me is like it can be chaotic, and you can still trust that the people around you can still make a show. Like you don't
Like
have
we're
to
doing right now.
you don't have to you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about like you.
Yeah, you're going to get a great conversation.
We're in a corner
regardless.
with a
Yeah.
camera propped up on a chair, and Elijah is sitting on the other side of the table, like
Trying
controlling
to
the
push
camera.
buttons and all.
It's fine.
Great.
It's still going to be a good
It's
show,
great.
and it was. Like that's what I love about these shows. Is like you don't have to worry about the actual like content. You just be there and make a show. It's
That's
so much
fantastic.
fun.
That is fantastic. I love it. I love it so much. Cincy Beer Week, we've said it a million times during this episode, and we will keep saying it. CincyBeerWeek.com. Check out the website. Look at all the events. Go to all the events that you are able to go to. There are so many things happening that week that if you can make it to even a quarter of them, you are doing a phenomenal job. If you like what we did tonight, do the things you know you should do, like, review, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. Follow us on social media. Send us stuff via email. Go to our website, truthbeerpod.com. That's where you get links to everything, including how to become a Patreon subscriber and get the unedited episodes with half of the shit that Gnome said cut out. Because, I mean, really, what does he contribute to the conversation? And also a link to sign up to the Cincy Beer Events newsletter, where you can get in your inbox a list of all the events that we tell you about on our other podcast, which is called, you guessed it, Cincy Beer Events.
That was not what I was going to guess.
What were you going to guess?
Cincy beer excitement. That's what I thought it was going to be called. Man.
Maybe that'll be the next iteration.
Cincy
You
beer
missed it.
arousal.
Yeah. Oh,
Hey.
goodness.
Cincy beer boner.
Oh, my goodness. Here we go again. What?
Alliteration. B and the
What?
B.
That makes sense.
Besides being completely exhausted from the Women in Beer panel, what are you guys going to be doing next Tuesday?
I don't know.
This-
I have no idea.
I'm
probably drinking somewhere.
Somewhere. Sounds good to me.
Cheers, everyone.
Probably apologizing for not doing the weekly pint because who knows what the hell I'm going to do.
We'll be there.